Here comes the play. Goodman at the free throw line. Jumper.
He broke his ankles. He is Houdini.
Mickey Mantle don't care about you, so why should you care about him? Nobody cares.
That's not a good call. No.
You don't like that call.
I don't like that call.
Not so fast.
Welcome back to Mike's Madness, everybody. Hope you're having a good day, night, weekend, weekday, whenever you're watching this. In this video, we're going to be getting to the Baltimore Ravens, and if you're a Ravens fan, I have some things to say, because I saw a lot of people getting on Lamar Jackson last night after the loss to the Bills, and I saw a lot of people kind of just throwing out random saltiness and random just weird things that people were upset about, and it's like, my message to you Ravens fans out there is don't be that guy or that person, right? Don't be that Ravens fan. And if you have no idea what I'm really talking about, just think about that guy that always comes at I'm gonna paint a picture for you, okay? Tomorrow morning, on Monday morning, this guy is gonna walk into work and he's gonna say, oh man, the Ravens are just terrible. They're never gonna get it done. Harbaugh needs to go. Lamar Jackson's not a good quarterback, and the whole bit, right? And the reason I'm saying that is because that is the same bit that people pulled on Joe Flacco and John Harbaugh in 2010, 2011, before they won the Super Bowl. And it was every time that the Ravens lost, it was always Joe Flacco. It was always Joe Flacco's terrible. John Harbaugh doesn't know what he's doing. This, that, and the other thing, right? And I kind of am sensing that same thing is going to happen to this upcoming week, right? Through talking to your buddies that are Ravens fans, all that other stuff. It's going to be Lamar Jackson can't win in this league. John Harbaugh is not a good coach anymore. And it's not really all Lamar Jackson's fault. I mean, you go look at his stats. Buffalo really held him to some respectable rushing yards, right? They didn't let Lamar Jackson run all over them like he is known to do that to teams. I wasn't disappointed in Lamar Jackson's throwing game either. I thought he had some pretty, I thought he had a decent game with his arm. The win was certainly a factor. I'm not making that as an excuse. It's just a fact, right? It was a factor for Josh Allen as well. And it's just that it is what it is kind of thing, right? And that's one of those things that I really do hate to say, but it's true. It's not an excuse for any team. It's the facts. It was a factor in that game, plain and simple. And you might be wondering, so if it's not John Harbaugh and it's not Lamar Jackson and it's not it's not the win's fault, right? Whatever you want to call it. Then whose fault is it? Well, listen, right? I mean, you can certainly blame it on the win a little bit, because in any other game, right, Justin Tucker nails those 2 field goals. So let's take the score as it was, right? 17-3. He makes those 2 field goals. It's 17-9. J.K. Dobbins had a few drop passes that he really should have caught. And late in the game, Tyler Huntley, the backup quarterback, give him credit. Give him all the credit in the world, because he came in. He had only played in 2 games prior to that. So, and this was really the first game that he came in where it was he had to perform, right? The other games where he came in, it was garbage time and just mop up duty. This was the first time he came in, and it was all right, buddy, you need to do well, because this is win or go home. So he came in, and I was incredibly impressed with how well he managed to play given the circumstances. And sure, you can say, oh, he overthrew Marquise Brown. Okay, yeah, sure, he did. He made a few plays where he wasn't totally accurate. He wasn't pinpoint on all of his throws. But that guy, mind you, that guy was a rookie quarterback who had never played in a meaningful game before in the NFL, and he came in the divisional round of the playoffs against the Buffalo Bills when it was win or go home. The only, you can't get much more pressure on you than that. So I thought he was really surprisingly, he had a pretty good game for the given circumstances. But it all comes back to, and it's not the defense either. What it is the offensive line. And this is a trend that, and I know that I'm kind of going back on what I said a couple weeks ago, but last night, the offensive line showed their true colors. And I know that a couple weeks ago I said that I was really impressed with how well they were, performing, right, with all the injuries and the COVID issues and all that good stuff, right? I know I said that, I was really impressed with the offensive line and all that, right? Well, and that's because I really was impressed with the offensive line going into week 17, I believe that's when I said it. I really was. I thought that they were, really getting it together, but last night I think that, I don't know if it was the pressure or what it was, but I feel like whatever it was, the offensive line last night for the Baltimore Ravens, they crumbled big time. They had an absolute colossal breakdown. And it wasn't just the center, right? It was the whole offensive line. Jackson was getting boxed in, and this isn't all on the offensive line as much as it is like, I'm not going to just totally say like the offensive line was absolutely terrible, because you have to, at some point, you have to give some credit to the other side as well. And the Buffalo Bills defense was really good. They had a you have to give some credit to them as well, because their defensive line and their setting the edge and everything, they applied a lot of pressure, right? And it's just one of those things that our offensive line for the Ravens, they kind of got bullied a little bit. They crumbled under the pressure, I think, and the Buffalo Bills just kind of said, okay, you can't handle us, and we're just gonna keep applying pressure, and they did that, and the Ravens couldn't stop it, and it's that simple. Another thing is, like, how do you have a center where the most important job of that guy on your football team is to snap the ball, right? I mean, that is his most important job, and then his secondary, his second most important job is to block. Okay, those are your two most important jobs as a center in football. And last night, Patrick Mekari couldn't do either. He couldn't snap the ball, right? He had 4 fumbles, right? And that's part of the reason, or that's not part of the reason. That is the reason that Lamar Jackson got a concussion and almost had a safety, or not. I don't know if he had a concussion, but he was in the protocol. And the Ravens almost gave up a safety, and I think it was 4 total of those snaps that could have been a fumble, right? And that didn't help the nerves at all, right? That just made things worse. And like I just don't like, and like I said, I know that I said prior to going into this game, trust me, I said that I was really impressed with the Ravens offensive line. And that's because to that point I was. But last night it really showed what this season was all about. What, the injuries, the COVID issues, the inexperience, right? I mean, we had a young group of guys that were at that that were on the offensive line, and a bunch of young guys on the offensive line and a bunch of inexperienced guys on the offensive line. Sure, they can do good against the Giants and the Bengals and the the Cowboys, right? We can do, sure, you can do great against the teams that aren't getting you anywhere, right? That aren't going to be tough, right? But against better teams, against Super Bowl contenders, you can only do so much, right? I mean, the inexperienced guys and that's not going to win you the Super Bowl. And that's kind of my overall point here, is that if Ravens fans, you cannot be that person that's like, that just throws your hands up in the air and is like, oh man, this is terrible. Like, our team's terrible. Jackson is the worst quarterback in the world, and Harbaugh needs to go. Because like I said, that's what typical, and when I say typical, I mean like the Ravens fans that don't take time to like know the team and like learn about everybody and like, you know what I mean? Like, these are the kind of fans that like halfway through the season, they lean over to you and they're like, who's J.K. Dobbins? And you're like, are you kidding me? and like that's what I mean. Like, you cannot be that guy, because if you thought this team was going to win the Super Bowl, then you're delusional. Because we had our defense was about as good as you could have really hoped for. Our defense only let up 10 points, right? I mean, the other 7 came from the pick 6. So, as disappointing as the Ravens offense was, our defense backed it up, right? Our defense, really, hung in there and played till the end. And the whole team did, but the defense was really strong, I thought personally. There were a few times where, we let up a lot. We let up some big plays, and we let up some wide open passes where you thought, how do you let that guy open? But the Buffalo Bills are for real. And this was not a game that, like, as a Ravens fan, I wasn't expecting the Ravens to win. Buffalo's a great team, right? They have all of their ducks in a row. And still they like I said, they had some plays where the wide receivers wound up wide open. And when I look at the Ravens from the defensive perspective, I was more so impressed with our linebackers and linemen than I was the secondary. And my take on Marcus Peters. I didn't, I'm not a huge fan of him, but I gotta give it to him. Last night, it wasn't his worst game, right? Like, he played decent, I thought. Marlon Humphrey played, okay. Jimmy Smith was okay. There were some points where I was a little disappointed with his play, but I mean, look, that's all behind us now. But as I said, if you thought the Ravens were going to go to the Super Bowl this year, and much less win the Super Bowl, if you thought the Ravens were going to go to the Super Bowl this year, you're delusional, because our offensive line was a headline, ever since week 8. We had Rodney Stanley go down. We had a couple of other injuries. Our tight ends we had issues with. Nick Boyle went down. We had that stretch where like half the team was out with COVID. We pretty much put our practice squad out there in that game at the Steelers that took that got delayed like 80 million times. Like we just never, the Ravens never got into a rhythm this year. And you say, well, what about the end of the season? Well, that was against the Cowboys, Giants, Bengals, and we had one really good game against the Browns. Sure, the Ravens got into a rhythm kind of at the end of the season, but those against those games that we got in rhythm against, was against teams that really weren't going to make the playoffs. And like that's my point. We never got into a rhythm. And our offensive line was really inexperienced. We had probably the worst center in the history of football. Our receiving core is not great. I still think that's something we have to work on. I think Marquise Brown, he improved from I forget what week it was, but he did improve from like middle of the season when I was really kind of starting to give up on him. He improved, but still, overall our receiving core is not great. I think our offensive coordinator has a lot of work to do if he comes back next year. Because if you noticed that last night in that game, if you were paying attention, you might have noticed that Lamar Jackson was in the pocket a lot. And I just don't get it. If you go back and watch the Titans game and the Browns game, the Monday Night Football, the poop game, if you watch that one, you watch the games where the Cowboys game, the Giants game, the Bengals game. Like, if you go back and watch all of those games where we were winning and playing really well, if you pay attention to Lamar Jackson, right, when he drops back to pass, you'll notice, if you pay attention to this, again, you got to pay attention to this. You have to be really looking out for it. He is much better when he rolls out of the pocket and kind of, just rolls out and then starts to look downfield. He is not a pocket passer. Like, I don't know how, I don't know what John Harbaugh or whoever's job that is to talk to Greg Roman. I don't know what we need to do to get that through Greg Roman's thick head. But Greg Roman needs to stop eating all the food, and he needs to realize that Lamar Jackson is not Tom Brady. He is not Aaron Rodgers. He is not a pocket passer. You are not going to make a living by sticking him in the pocket. You are not going to win the Super Bowl by sticking Lamar Jackson in the pocket and making him throw the ball, 40 times or whatever. And that didn't happen last night. I'm more so talking about last year. Last year's Titans game where they made him throw it like 50 times or whatever. But like, you could see that the Ravens were kind of falling back into that trend last night where they were just kind of sticking him in the pocket. And you could definitely say, like, why can't Lamar just roll out on his own? And I think it's more so that you're just trying to stick with the play that's called in. But you know what I mean? Like, it all stems from the person who's calling the plays. And I think you have to design more plays for Lamar to roll out of the pocket. More of those boot kind of plays, more of those, just get out of the pocket. Because not only is he a better passer when he gets out of the pocket, but when he gets out of the pocket, he has more room to run, which is the thing that he's most famous for. You can't run in the open field when the pocket is closing in on you. When things are closing in on you, you can't get out and go. Your only way is right through the middle most of the time. And if the pocket's closing in on you and the middle is the middle is strong as well, you're going to get sacked. And that's what happened last night. He got sacked a lot, more than you're used to seeing. And it's because they stuck him in the pocket. So I just, you play, that was the Ravens, 18th game last night? And I don't know how through 18 games of a season, you don't realize that Lamar Jackson is better when you get him out of the pocket. I just don't get it. And, like, sure, that's easy for me to say, right? From sitting on the couch and watching games, right? That's easy for me to say. But you're getting paid to call the offensive plays, and you're getting paid to make this offense work. And like, you're the offensive coordinator. It's in your job title. And I just don't know how you're sitting up in the booth, right, as a coordinator with the big menu of plays. And I don't know how when your quarterback is getting sacked out there, how you don't say, you know what, maybe we shouldn't stick him in the pocket anymore. Maybe we should let him roll out of the pocket. It's just really frustrating, and it was disappointing last night, and I want to make this one point, right? Sure, I am definitely disappointed that the Ravens lost, but I'm not like disappointed at the point where I'm just like, I'm disappointed because I thought we were going to win. I'm just disappointed because our defense, held up their end of the bargain. Our defense gave our offense plenty of opportunities to win that game. And looking back and going into that game, I was like, this is not a game that I think we're going to be able to win, because I think the Buffalo Bills are really good. Excuse me. But looking back at the game, it was a game that we definitely could have won. That was a very winnable kind of game for us. And, it's disappointing, but as a Ravens fan, it's not surprising. It's disappointing, but it's not surprising. And, like, that's another thing. If you're not disappointed when your team loses, I'm sorry to say this, but you're not a fan. You're not a real fan of your team. Because if your team loses and you're just like, well, I don't really care, I'm just happy that they played, you're not a real fan, right? Because if you really don't care what your team loses, what kind of fan are you, right? If you don't care that your team loses, do you really care when they win? So I don't know. It was just weird to see some people say that, like, oh, I don't really care that they lost. You don't care that your team lost? then don't watch the games, right? I mean, and sure, there are the casual fans out there that are just like, I'm just a fan. Like, if they win, that's great. If not, then that's fine. But like, there were some people last night that like try to put themselves out there. I was like, oh, I'm the biggest Ravens fan in town. You know those people, and then they're just like, I don't care that they lost. It's like, buddy, don't be telling me that you're the biggest Ravens fan ever, and like, don't be trying to make yourself like, the number one fan and like all that stuff, and then be like, I don't really care that they lost. So that was just weird. That a few things that I saw from fans, it was just really weird. But yeah, like, it's okay to be disappointed that your team lost and still kind of like expect it. You know what I mean? Like I said, if you thought the Ravens were going to go to the Super Bowl, much less win the Super Bowl, I hate to say it, but you're kind of delusional. Because that team was never a team that was going to... That's not a Super Bowl contender team. They don't have the receiving core. They don't have the offensive line. Their secondary is not great. The only things that are really good about the Ravens team, their run game and their defensive pass rush. That's it. That's really it. And one last thing before we wrap up. Next year, if Tyler Huntley, the Ravens backup quarterback, if he sticks around, I think Tyler Huntley showed that he can handle himself in the NFL last night. I think he showed that. But next year, I would love to see Tyler Huntley be more involved in like jet sweep plays and wildcat type of plays. I think it would be... but I really want to see the Ravens use Tyler Huntley more. I want to see him be used kind of like Taysom Hill for the Saints. Like, think of it that way. I think they need to get Tyler Huntley more involved in different play calls and stuff like that, because he showed that he has mobility. He can throw the ball, and he's young. He's a rookie. He still has time to develop. And then you think about another guy in Trace McSorley when he gets healthy, and you can really start getting some wild plays together. I think my thumb's bleeding. I didn't notice that till just now. But yeah, you can really get some wild plays going once you get those. Obviously you got Lamar Jackson. You've got J.K. Dobbins, who's really good. You've got Gus Edwards, who's a really good running back. And then Tyler Huntley and Trace McSorley. Those are 5 guys. You can really get some wild play calls going. But no. You've got some of the speediest guys in the NFL, and what does Greg Roman do? He sticks Lamar Jackson in the pocket. He sticks the speediest quarterback in the NFL in the pocket instead of rolling him out. I just... it was disappointing, to say the least. But that's kind of my message to Ravens fans, is that, like, don't be that guy that's like, like doomsday. Don't be like, oh, this is all Lamar Jackson's fault. This is all, our team is terrible, like, right? Because they're not terrible. They just were, a decent team that, the divisional round was about as far as they were going to get. When you really boil things down to what kind of talent we have in each of the key aspects of a football game, of a football team, we just don't match up to teams like the Packers or the Saints or the Chiefs or the Bills. Like, we just don't, like, the best team we really could have ever beaten was the Titans, Browns, and, like, we really should have beaten the Steelers those 2 times. That's about as good of a team that we're going to beat. We just don't match up with those Super Bowl contenders just yet. And give this team time, like, not every team not every team with talent is going to win the Super Bowl the first year. Not every quarterback's going to be Patrick Mahomes and go win the Super Bowl in his second year or third year or whatever it was. Like, things take time to develop. You have to be patient. And you just can't be acting like the sky's falling after you know, after a 1-3 playoff record for Lamar Jackson. You know, go back and look at all the stats. Did Peyton Manning win the Super Bowl in his first year? No. Did Tom Brady go back and win the Super Bowl his first year? No. You know, did Brett Favre win the Super Bowl his first year? I don't know. I didn't look that up. But like, not every team is gonna win the Super Bowl. Like, a team that has talent isn't gonna win the Super Bowl every year. So don't be acting like the sky's falling. This team's gonna get better. They just have to figure things out. They just have to get a group that is talented, and it's gonna take time. So there you go. That's kind of my message for Ravens fans after you know, a loss. and I don't know if I really want to call it a disappointing loss, but like, you're gonna be disappointed anytime your team loses. But you know, the effort was there. But yeah, that's my message for Ravens fans that are kind of looking for some kind of like explanation or just something, you know, to look at after another playoff exit. And you know, like I said, you're not gonna win the Super Bowl every year that you have a talented group. So you just have to stick with them, you know. And I'm sure that when the Ravens finally break through, you're gonna see all these fans come out of the woodwork and be like, "Oh yeah, I was a Ravens fan the whole time." And you're gonna go back and look at their like social media or whatever, and they're like trashing Lamar Jackson when he was, you know, when he was concussed. So, yeah, just stick with this group. They're gonna get there. Trust me. Big trust, right? That's what they say. So, thanks for watching this video. If you did enjoy, leave a thumbs up. That'd be awesome. And if you haven't already, do please subscribe to the Mike's Madness YouTube channel for more videos. You can hit the bell, and that'll give you notifications every time a new video is posted. And leave a comment below in the comment section. That's always welcome. Feel free to do that. And share the video with all your friends and family. That would be awesome. And other than that, I'll be back in the next video. I'll see you next time. I'm out.